It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. Right, let's start. Okay, guys, welcome to another story time with me. I'm Tea with Mike. Today's tea fact is you're less likely to get a caffeine crash when you drink tea as opposed to coffee. As opposed to coffee or even soda. And that comes from romantichomes.com. So, welcome to Tea with Mike, Bridget. How's it going today?
It's going very well. How are you, Mike?
Not too bad, thanks for asking. And so, as you know, I'm dying to know, what is your favorite type of tea?
Turmeric and ginger.
Is it nice? And is there any particular reason for that?
Ginger is one of my favorite flavors, and turmeric is a good anti-inflammatory.
And for someone, including myself, that hasn't drunk this type of tea before, like how would you describe the taste?
Like black pepper in hot water.
Oh.
And they actually tell you when you're brewing it to brew it with honey and black pepper. So the honey gives it a sweet taste if you don't like the black pepper taste, and then you have the black pepper taste of the turmeric.
Oh, so do you almost get hit with two tastes, like the initial taste?
Yes. And then the sweet to kind of round things out.
Nice. Do you remember kind of the first time you tried the tea? Was it like quite a strong taste, and you didn't think you would like it, and then the honey kind of like soothed it out?
Well, I like it better without the honey. I really like the black pepper taste of it. I don't like a real sweet tea when I have my tea. And my Irish grandmother would cringe, but I don't drink my tea with cream and sugar. I drink it, completely unadulterated. And so the black tea or the black pepper just gives it a really good punch.
Oh, nice, very nice. And so that's good. And then obviously you might know if you watch previous stories. My favorite type of tea is Yorkshire tea, or English breakfast tea. So Yorkshire tea first. It's obviously a strong black tea, and I put a tiny bit of milk in it. So you can already tell I've had too many cups of tea already today. Yeah, so that's my favorite type of tea. And so let's start. And do you want to tell everyone a little bit about you?
Oh boy. Well, I went to high school in Moses. That's how old I am.
That's a good way of putting it.
I work with a lot of musicians. Particularly, there's this one group that I'm working very closely with out of Des Moines, Iowa, called the B Twins. I do booking and promotion for them, and work very closely with their manager, TC, who is an absolute doll. He knows his stuff and is very accessible when I need to talk to him about different ideas. And I live in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. So so if you're looking at a map,
yes,
30 miles south of the New York border, and 40 miles north of where the Little League World Series is held.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a really small town. I moved back home back in 2013 when my dad had his first heart attack, because my goal is to make sure my parents get to stay at their house. And the music industry has allowed me to do that because I can do everything. I have a laptop, I have a cell phone, I can work from anywhere. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. So for those of you, including myself, what's it kind of like living in the middle of nowhere? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it challenging? Is it peaceful?
Well, it's fortunately where I live. I'm 4 hours outside of New York City.
Okay.
4 hours outside of Philly. Almost 5 hours outside of DC, and 6 hours outside of Pittsburgh, and 3.5 3.5 hours from Niagara Falls. So
Oh
anywhere
yeah.
I want to go, it's very easy to get to. But day to day can be a little boring,
Okay.
a little challenging. Like I said, I grew up here. I'm used to it. I was the Tioga County alternate dairy princess when I was in high school. So, I know how to milk a cow and I know how to
Nice.
wait.
Very good. I'm sure that comes useful in the
Oh, yes, it does.
in remote locations.
hmm
Talking about remote locations, what is I guess different types of skills you might have learned because of the location that an average person might not have?
I learned agriculture. My dad, I grew up in 242 acres of land.
That's a lot.
So in the summertime, when my mom gave us a sandwich and said, go outside and play, I could be 242 acres away from the house and still technically be home.
Wow.
You
Did you
learn,
ever do that? Did you ever
oh
go
yeah,
200? Oh, you did? Okay.
yeah. There was this one area in the far corner of our property that my brother had a campsite, and we'd just hang out there. Of course, my brother had his semi-obnoxious, semi-cool friends, and I had my very obnoxious, very cool friends, and we just kind of hung out.
That's cool.
Hung out and had a
Well,
good time, and yeah, it was always really fun. I guess I didn't really appreciate it until I went away to college.
okay.
I went, and where I went to college was it was King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So I was 2 hours outside of New York City, and two and a half outside of a lot of places in New Jersey. So my roommates were all from the city, and they had
That's
no idea
okay.
what I was talking about. And the concept of me growing up on a farm, they didn't understand until
Oh.
they came to visit.
Oh. And they're like, where's the stadium and 6 bars and
Yeah,
8
exactly.
concerts and 22 shopping centers?
So at one point we had 102 cows. We milked twice a day.
Yes.
And then, like I said, 242 acres.
That's a so you must know how to like make silage and cut grass.
Yes. Yes, I do. A lot. We have a silo, and we have
Awesome.
a field for corn and all of that stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, but back when I was living in England, we didn't have 242 acres. We had I think it was about 5 acres. And when I was a little bit older, I was allowed to cut the grass on the ride-on mower. And that was
hmm
I guess that was quite an exciting experience at the time, even though the thing didn't go very fast. Just being able to sit on a machine that moves. Yeah. So.
Well, imagine mowing that with a push mower. Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go.
Sounds
Because
painful.
up until my dad turned, oh gosh, when he was 68, he put the whole roof on our house by
Yes.
himself.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because he had a buddy came up to him and said, "Hey, Jack, I didn't realize you were sick." He goes, "I'm not sick." He goes, "Any man your age that puts a roof on their house has to be a little sick." But he didn't have a riding lawnmower, so Sean and I were out there with the push mowers,
Oh
mowing the
yeah.
grass. And it's funny because the more my dad decided he didn't like yard work, the bigger
Yes.
the garden got.
Very, very nice. So,
hmm
sounds like some fun times growing up for sure, and then
Oh
obviously
yeah,
like returning to them, and then obviously appreciating it more like when you left the environment for a while.
yes,
So,
definitely.
so one of the questions on my mind today is how did you get started in music,
I
being in such a remote location too?
I always loved music. I was in the band. Not very good, but I was in the band.
What instruments
Um,
did you play?
Clarinet, drums, baritone, and piano.
Wow, that's
None
enough
of them very
instruments.
well. None of them very well. I just played them. And then I went to college, and that kind of went to the wayside. Um, when I graduated college, I became a nanny
Okay.
for a colonel in the Air Force. The oldest one was 3.5, and the baby was 2 months old.
Okay.
And they're now, well, let's just say one's old enough to get married and is a doctor of physical therapy, and the other one works for ESPN.
Oh wow,
And
that's cool too.
yeah, exactly. And then after I worked with them, I got a job at Penn State Harrisburg. So in Pennsylvania, well, all throughout the United States, they have these state schools.
Okay.
And Penn State Harrisburg, or Penn State is the one in Pennsylvania. And I worked for Penn State Harrisburg as a student activities coordinator. Got a full-time job at the Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport, and came up here closer to home, full-time job, benefits, all that stuff. And then just started, my friend Pete was in a band that I started bringing to the college, and it went from there. It was all about logistics and making sure that bookings have routing of artists. You know, I have this TC, the manager of the B Twins, calls it my idiot savant talent. I can, anywhere on the East Coast, I can tell you approximate locations, like how far away they are from Florida to Maine, like 3 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours, whatever.
Oh, okay. So you know a geography map well.
Yeah, and I have this weird sense that if it doesn't feel like I'm going in the right direction, I usually am not going in the right direction. So, started working with them. Met a gentleman, his name is Salish. He's a hypnotist. He does these professional hypnosis shows. He's originally from Fiji, grew up in Canada, and then started working in the college market in the United States.
Okay.
And he asked me to come work for him. And it was just all this college booking. Started working with musicians, and it took off from there. I'm not talented necessarily on the music side as far as being able to play, but I know something that is good and strong when I hear it, and I know what is sellable. So
okay, so you got a good ear.
Yeah.
So how much touring do you do right now? What's some of the coolest places you've been? And that could be for any number of reasons. The tour bus broke down and you had to stop at McDonald's. I don't know.
Let's see. I went to Austin for South by Southwest. Actually, I was there for the Red Gorilla Fest, which happens in Austin at the same time, with a band I was working with out of Brooklyn called The States. And then anywhere that you're at with the B Twins turns into just this fun, joyous time because they just like to have fun. So I surprised them back in October. Their manager and I had set up a date because they were supposed to be in Iowa, and it was going to be like this, like get together, brainstorming type event.
Okay.
Well, then Walter had a friend in LA who invited them out to do this show, and the show was with Chris Martin from Coldplay and Snoop Dogg.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a benefit.
That's very cool.
And I was like, well, how about I come to LA and surprise them? So they had no idea, and they were hanging out at their friend Peter's house, and I kind of walked in the back door, and Wagner, the ukulele player, did a double take, and he just was standing there staring at me. And Walter came around the corner, and he goes, and Wagner was like, but wait, you're in Pennsylvania. I was like, no, I'm not. Surprise. So I have to say that was like the best, because it was a total surprise to them, and I got to meet a lot of really cool people in LA. They have made amazing contacts just because of their personalities and their talent on top of it. So yeah, we had a really good time.
So, do you have any tours coming up, or how often do they tour, or does it come and go in waves?
Last year they did 153 shows.
Wow.
So, and 41 of those shows were in Alaska at the Alaska State Fair over 12 days. And we had quite a bit lined up for this spring, but with everything else that's going on with COVID-19, unfortunately, we've had people start to reschedule.
Yeah. Rescheduling is better than cancellation.
Exactly. So they're rescheduling for January, February, later in the year.
Well, you got to be realistic, haven't you? There's no point scheduling for 3 months' time because we probably know it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Right. And we're still hoping, though, that in August they can go back to Alaska. They got invited to do Salmon Fest in Alaska.
That's cool.
Which is the first 3 days, first, second, and third, or August 31st, 1st, and 2nd. And then...
Okay, that might be doable if it's at the end of August, yeah.
And then they got invited to do the Tannin Valley State Fair, which is in Fairbanks.
Cool.
And they got invited to do 3 days up there. So we're hoping by August things start to at least not seem so overwhelming and people kind of understand a little bit more what's going on, and we've flattened that curve a little bit more. So that's where we're at. But the guys, they call them #quarantunes. And they do an hour where you can go online and you can ask them questions and you can make requests, and
that's
they just popular. Are there. And they're just their goofy, normal, fun-loving, grateful selves. You know.
Well, that's what you should. That's what you should be.
Yeah, and
it becomes more apparent at a time like this too.
And I walked away from music back in 2013 and wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. Like, nothing. Met these guys. They drove out to Pennsylvania from Des Moines, which is a 17-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
To sit for 3 hours with me in a restaurant and offer me a job. And they have such gratitude and grace and just these amazing personalities that you can't help but smile and laugh and giggle and just forget what life is throwing at you for whatever brief moment you get to spend with them. You know, so I'm like, I want to be on that boat.
I also know a little bit about musicians' personality because I worked in the theater and entertainment space for a couple of years and did quite a few concerts and stuff. So obviously met some really nice individuals and then some not so nice individuals too.
And it's not that they weren't nice. I would never want to say that anybody that I ever worked with wasn't nice. It was just they got caught up in that whole I'm a rock star personality. Yeah, that's true. And they could have been. And they should have been. So. And they should have been. But with Walter and Wagner and TC, Walter and Wagner grew up in the slums of Rio. You know, they learned how to play music, classical music, on homemade instruments that their dad made for them.
That's very cool.
And they weren't even supposed to learn that type of music. They were supposed to be laborers or whatever and
follow everyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so, and then Wagner, the ukulele player, was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. So he went through all of chemo and just the whole thinking he was going to lose his arm and not
Oh,
sure where it's going to go and all of this stuff, and come out of it on such a joyous side of things. So it kind of, for me to be anything less wouldn't be doing them any good.
That's right. That's really good. Down some perspective to definitely take on life.
Mm-hmm. And they have it, and they're very good with it. And like I said, they're the ones that brought me back to music. I have no problem reaching out to anybody I don't know because I believe in them so much. Whatever they need, I'm willing to do.
Awesome. And okay, let's spice it up a little bit. So when I was obviously preparing for the show, I learned that you do a lot of also at least some public speaking on panels. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I've done some with colleges. I was a member of NACA, which is in the United States, the National Association of Campus Activities.
Okay.
So I did some panels on my boss at the time, Joyce Jaiwan, who was the owner's wife, but she oversaw all the agents for Metropolis Management. She had put together a panel on microaggressions.
Okay.
And she asked me, because she wasn't able to make it to the conference, if I could speak on that. So I've spoken on microaggressions.
What is microaggressions? Aggression?
So it's, imagine the backhanded compliment. You know, hey, you're really cute for a fat girl. You know, stuff like that. You know,
Okay.
just the ones that aren't really 100%, or I didn't realize somebody of your gender could be so cool, or somebody of your age could be so intelligent. You know, they kind of give you a compliment, but then they have to get a little dig into it.
Gotcha.
So I did a workshop in front of a whole bunch of college students at the NACA Mid-Atlantic Conference on that topic. So on
that topic, what were you more specifically like I guess talking about
how to be aware of what your microaggression might be. Understanding where your bias stands. So if you're somebody who, let's say, is the jock on campus and don't realize that the brain can be as cool as the jock, might give that little dig and not realize you're giving the dig, but it's still that, oh my God, I didn't realize nerds could be that cool. Or I didn't realize computer or psychology or whatever could be so cool.
Interesting, yeah.
You know, it's not understanding that we see it a lot nowadays, specifically with gender.
Okay.
Like I didn't realize women could be that strong or that logical, or you're pretty cool for a gay person, or I didn't understand that's what transgender was, or, you know, just those little innuendo type things.
I understand a little better now.
So that's what I spoke on there. And then I was asked to do a how to book a college gig at the Millennium Music Conference in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which at the time was 23 years old. And I had Miguel, Rob Einhorn, and a gentleman from a college. Unfortunately, I know his first name's Jeff. Can't remember his last name. He was from Lebanon College out in the Lehigh Valley. And it was how to, you know, approach colleges, how to talk to them, how to book a gig, what to look for with contracting, pricing, what to expect. And then this year I was asked to be on how to book a gig, and then what the different parts of the agencies were, you know. So we had a promotion guy, we had a a record guy. We had all these people on this panel, and they were talking about the different roles, how to go from DIY to building a team, and when to know when to build the team.
Mm.
You know, because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, with music, and it's with any of the arts, they don't understand that it's all part of, when you get to a point, you have to build.
It's the Tea with Mike show.